Hello, everyone. This is Chris Kalinich. I'm going to let us just wait one more minute or so for participants to join, and then I will see you in just a moment. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my kitchen, also known as the Plant to Platter Kitchen. My name is Chris Kalinich, and I am a culinary instructor and nutrition educator based out of beautiful red rock lined Sedona, Arizona. And it is a most gorgeous day. I'm looking out at my backyard right now through my kitchen windows, and it's beautiful, beautiful spring weather. So hopefully wherever you are joining me from, you are also experiencing a most glorious day. Just a couple items of business if you are new to a Zoom webinar format. The way this is going to work is we do have the chat box. And hi, Deb from Anthem. Thank you for joining me. We also have what's called a Q&A box, and you should be able to see that if you're on a desktop. It's kind of down here on your toolbar. If you're on a mobile device, it might be up in the upper right-hand corner. So take a moment, get familiar with where those are at, because I am going to be doing this class, and towards the end, really focusing on the Q&A section. And I have some panelists with me, actually family members, who are going to be helping me in case while I'm doing the demonstration, there's some burning question I need to answer. Either my daughters, Megan and Corinne, and my husband, John, will let me know. So just a little bit of introduction. In that regards, my daughter, Megan, is hailing from Austin, Texas, where she lives there with her husband, and she is a physical therapist. And then my daughter Corinne is hailing from Portland, Oregon, and she is completing her Master's of Science in Nutrition and doing her dietetic internship. And then my wonderful husband is here in Sedona with me. So we are excited that you are in our home and with us, and thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your day. So the way this class is structured, I've been actually doing 3 classes. This is the third in a series of 3, and I did them in honor of Earth Month. And these are free classes, and I'm having fun doing them. I felt like with all my other classes that kind of got canceled and postponed, my in-person classes, I had to find a purpose, something to do to get up in the morning. And so thank you for joining me, because you are giving me some purpose in my life. So hopefully with the recipes I'm demonstrating today, you'll also find that it's very worthwhile for you as well. I do also, it is Earth Month, and this upcoming week will be actually, I think it's April 22nd is Earth Day, but also during April, I think it's April 7th, every year the World Health Organization puts out, they kind of focus on a global health theme. Last year, I think it was universal health care. This year, it's very appropriate. It is, they are focusing on nurses and midwives. So I need to give a round of applause, because I know I have a lot of people kind of coming in from the health industry. So thank you so much for all you do. If you're in that nursing or a midwife, dealing with the healthcare, especially the coronavirus stuff that's going on, thank you so much for all that you do. And I just wanted to give that acknowledgement as well. So the way this class is going to operate, it's a 45-minute, what I call a bite-sized class. Most of my classes are typically at least an hour, if not an hour and a half, sometimes even 2 hours, because based on the intensity of the recipes, what kind of health education we're covering, interaction, with answering questions, but this class we're going to do in 45 minutes. So the first 2/3, the first 30 minutes or so, I will be demonstrating and providing some information to you, and then we will wrap up with Q&A. And if I have to go longer than 45 minutes, I'm happy to stay here and answer all your questions. And hi from Flagstaff, yay, my old stomping ground. Thank you so much for joining, Sylvan. Let's see here. All right, so I am going to go ahead and get started. I think we have most of our participants with us. So let me go ahead, and I want to share something with you. So bear with me as I get my slideshow back up. All right, so we are talking about sauces today, specifically a scrumptious sauce. I'm actually going to show you one warm version of a sauce and then take that kind of template and transition it into a cold dish with a few adjustments. But what is it about sauces that we love so much? I don't know about you, but for me, sauces are the binding or cohesive quality to a lot of dishes. And I just wanted to give some examples. For instance, in Italy, we have the traditional red gravy, sometimes they call it, or red sauce, a typical maybe marinara sauce. What would a bed of warm pasta be if we didn't have that luscious, bright, rich, deep red sauce to put on top of it? In regards to France and a hollandaise sauce, it's very rich, a little bit of tang to it, end note of that, and it really has a lot of depth of flavor. In Mexico, a red sauce, the enchilada sauce we love here in the Southwest on top of our enchiladas, has some spiciness, heat to it. In Argentina, one of my favorite sauces that I don't think I make enough, that's made from fresh herbs like cilantro and parsley, but with the heat of like a jalapeno pepper. It's typically a lot of times served with meat, but it's also served in Argentina with roasted vegetables. And it's bright and very flavorful. And then in India, who doesn't like a masala or a curry? So we love definitely sauces all around the world. And so that's kind of why I wanted to focus today on making some sort of scrumptious sauce. But how do we do that? What are we doing with sauces? Sauces aren't one-dimensional at all. And they usually, when they are combined with ingredients of the dish, they are also combined with other tastes going on. So the entire dish becomes very multidimensional. And when you're working with any sort of food, but specifically plants, you really want to make sure you're introducing a variety of tastes, because that's what builds flavor. So let's look at the categories that our tongue is typically tasting. We have the sweetness factor. And sweet, think about it, when you typically enjoy something sweet, it's combined usually with some of these other flavors, right? And we typically, what I would recommend when you're building sweetness in a dish is use whole plant forms of that sweetness so that you get some added benefits as well. Instead of just using white processed sugar, which doesn't give you any sort of nutritional value, any health benefits, go for things that like dried fruits, like dried figs and dates and raisins, and that kind of thing. And I'll be showing that to you in a recipe. In regards to salty, just a little bit of salt can really add to the dimension of a dish. And I also highly suggest adding, a very little bit of finishing salt to something to really make something pop. For instance, last night, my husband and I, we wanted a little bit of a dessert. And so I took some plant-based like vanilla ice cream and drizzled a little bit of maple syrup. There's my sweetness, right, and my richness. And then I put some smoked salt, large kind of flake salt, just a little bit. and it turned everything almost like caramel-like, and it was absolutely beautiful. And so salty, adding a little bit of salt, but in different ways, and I'll be showing that in my recipes, how you can do that, not just with basic salt, but certain types of salty ingredients can really add to a sauce. Then we have a sour component. We can get that from citrus, like in this picture, lemon and limes and orange, but it also can come from fermented foods like sauerkraut and pickles, or any type of vinegar. So be aware of that. And then we have down here what might be, you may not be as familiar with, but is umami. And that's a Japanese word that back in the mid-'80s, they defined it as meaning good flavor. And it's that it can be meaty, but it's also savory. And it can come from a variety of things like soy sauce or mushrooms that have been really cooked well. It can come from even sun-dried tomatoes have an umami depth to them. So consider those type of ingredients from the plant kingdom. And then bitter, like bitter. Why would we like bitter? Well, bitter can be a warning, like, oh, don't maybe eat me because I may poison you. But for the most part, bitter is just, we're more sensitive to bitter on our tongues. And it really, bitter foods have really high beneficial nutritional qualities to them. And so in the bitter category are dark leafy greens, along with, sometimes people find broccoli to be bitter, so some of the cruciferous vegetables. But bitter, when combined with some sweet and salty and sour, which I'll be showing you, actually can be a very, very beneficial thing to the overall complexity of a dish. And then finally, I have in here some additional, they're really not technically tastes, I guess you would say, but they add to the flavor of something. They add to flavor building. And that's where you come in with spices and herbs. And some can be hot, spicy, like cayenne pepper, ancho chilies, that kind of thing. But also we can have a cooling effect with herbs, such as mint, like shown here, or even cilantro can have a cooling effect. So I'm going to be showing you through these recipes how in the sauce, and so be paying attention to all these elements here, because I want you to be aware of what we're going to be working with, how we're developing flavor in a sauce, and then what it's being combined with. All my recipes, and the recipes for this particular webinar are already on my website. You can go there right now if you want, because I'm not going to be having you, I kind of want you focusing on me when I'm actually preparing the food. But the recipes are online, and you'll be getting a follow-up email tomorrow with a link to the recipes as well. So I'm going to stop sharing at the moment so we can really get to the cooking part, which is what you're interested in. So let me put my spotlight on what's important, not me, but the food. So right now, what I'm going to start with, we are going to start with we talked about different cuisines, Asian and Mexican and Italian. We're going down the road of Asian-inspired dish. And this is a recipe that is a tried and true family favorite of ours. And both my girls make it all the time. It's something super simple. And I found that it would go well with maybe a lot of vegetables and ingredients you might typically have in your pantry or in your fridge right now. So what we're going to start with is a half cup of, it could be peanut butter, but it's a nut butter. It could be almond butter. It could be a sesame butter, or it could be a sunflower butter, but I am using for today's, I'm going to use a traditional peanut butter. And what I recommend, if you don't, like, let's say, make your own nut butters, is look on the back of the label of the jar and make sure you're not getting already added salt, sugar, and oil in there, especially like palm oil. Those are kind of, palm oil is like what I call a bad fat. We don't need any extra of that kind of fat. From nut butters, you're going to get some health benefits. You need a certain amount of fat in your diet for sure, but we don't need a super whole lot of it. So with nuts and seeds and that kind of thing, I use them in sauces or in as condiments, sprinkling on salads, that kind of thing, because you need them to absorb fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. So just be aware that it is beneficial to have some healthy fats to nourish our brains and our cells and hormones and, you know, to produce hormones and all that kind of stuff. The next thing we're going to do is, so we have this kind of luxurious fat quality that's going to coat our tongue and kind of make us crave this type of sauce. But we also now are going to add a ½ cup of low sodium tamari. You could use low sodium soy sauce. You could use coconut aminos. They're all found usually in the Asian section of a store. But this is going to give us what? And you're all shouting at me, that salty component and the umami component as well. That deep kind of savory quality that we really enjoy. Now, I'm going to be adding some rice vinegar, and that's 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. So what are we adding? We're adding that acidic, that sour component to meld with these other flavors we already have going on. And what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to turn on my induction cooktop. Hopefully it's not too loud for you all. And sometimes with Zoom, it kind of quiets things down when it gets to a certain loudness level, but we'll see. Hopefully you can hear me still. So I'm going to turn this on. Just, you know, everyone's stove is a little bit different. I'm turning on to kind of a medium heat and watching it because I'm doing everything here right in front of you. Okay, the next thing that we are going to add is our fresh ginger. Now, you could use 2 tablespoons of fresh ginger, or you could use a 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. So if you don't want to run out to the grocery store just for an ingredient like ginger, you can use a ground form. All right. The next thing we are going to add is my 3 cloves of garlic. And again, if you didn't have garlic, you could use garlic powder. You know, just start out maybe with a little bit, maybe about a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. Or if you don't even don't like garlic or you're sensitive to garlic, you can leave that out as well. It's not necessarily a make or break to this particular sauce, but it does add an element of kind of traditional Thai-like flavor. So it's starting to already boil here a little bit, so I'm going to turn it down. I'm going to now add red chili flakes. Now, this is something I enjoy, is a little spice, a little heat, and it's a 1/4 teaspoon of red chili flakes. Again, if you're not a spicy kind of person, you can leave it out. And then you'll notice that this is pretty thick, all right? So let me talk about that with you for a moment, and I'm gonna physically turn off my induction cooktop so I can talk a little better, in the sense that you could hear me. And let me just put the screen or the spotlight back on me for just a moment. So you notice how thick that sauce is. And there's a reason for it, because I want to explain to you some of the different ways you can use this sauce. It is obviously something that is packed with flavor. And so if you were going to use this maybe in a wrap or something like that, you could just use a very little bit, but it's going to add a lot of flavor. You could also put it inside, you know, with some steamed vegetables inside a sweet potato and kind of dollop that in there instead of maybe traditional, like what you would think of as a sour cream or that kind of a dairy-based filling that makes it very luxurious for you to eat with a potato. This would work as well. But this is kind of how my family, how we typically use this sauce. And it's very right now I'd say it's almost like pasty, but let me just show you why. I'm gonna flip it back to the pan here, or to the burner, I should say, and get you looking. So remember how I said when I was talking about building flavor that we have the sauce, we've incorporated that, some of the salty, the umami flavors, the sour, but you can do it also with what it's being mixed in with. And so here, just so you are aware, I have just a stir fry of veggies, some that were going, I would say a little bit, I don't want to say bad, but they were past their raw prime. So I don't like to waste food. And that's one of the things we can do for our planet is really use all of the foods that are available to us and not waste. Food waste, 6% of global greenhouse gas emissions actually come from food waste. So the less we do that, the better we can help our planet. So what I did is I used green tops of, like, I had gotten some radishes from a farmer's market, and I used the radishes in a salad, and I used the greens in here, as well as some carrot tops. I used the stalk of broccoli, as well as some broccoli heads, of course, zucchini, red pepper, mushrooms. So red pepper is sweet. Broccoli and zucchini are a little bit more on the bitter side. Mushrooms are umami packed. Let's see what else. I have a little bit more onions, some cooked onions in here. Carrots are some naturally sweet. So do you understand, like, I have also building flavor just from the nature of the plants I'm using. All right, so what I would do at this point is I'm going to add in the sauce, and I will probably, if I was doing this in real time, I would have been, the vegetables have cooled down because I had to do it in advance in order to do this quickly. Let me plug in my induction cooktop. And these would have been releasing some moisture and would have been warm, and so would the sauce have been warm. So I am actually going to add just a little bit, well, I don't know if I will need to add a little bit of water, maybe so. But if you like a thinner sauce, you can definitely add water. But what I'm going to do instead is, I'm just quickly, it's starting to heat up, so it's going to release and kind of get a little softer. But what I like to do with any sort of Asian sauce or curry sauce is right at the end, I always add some lime juice. And so 2 tablespoons, this is like 2 tablespoons of lime juice. I always add it at the end because vitamin C is a very unstable vitamin and it doesn't like heat. And you want that bright freshness from this acidic lime juice to really stand out in your dish. So I'm just going to add it here at the very end. And that will add a little bit more moisture. But this is super thick. You could serve this on, again, it could load a potato. But the way I am actually going to serve it is you could mix it, and another option I should say is you can mix it with noodles. We like to do that with rice noodles. Mix it with rice noodles in the pan. I would have a bigger pan than this and incorporate rice noodles in here. But what I'm going to do instead is I have some leftover farro. And instead of brown rice, this could go well with brown rice. But I'm going to use farro that I have on hand that I made earlier in the week so that you can see this plated, how I would serve it for dinner. All right, so let me turn that off. Move my induction cooktop out of the way. All right, so what I have here, and this is a fancy way, kind of a little trick I have. This is an old biscuit maker that I had from a long time ago, is I can actually pack it with something like farro or rice. And I saw this done at a Thai restaurant in Cortez, Colorado, that my husband and I stopped at, and they did it in a heart shaped, and I thought it was fun. And all you do is, it makes it like fancy looking, and you can then serve it. This is just some fresh spinach that I have going on here. And let me get some of the sauce and veggies. And then finish it with some sesame seeds. You have black as a nice contrast. A little bit of fresh basil if you want. Some wedges of lime so that people can add some additional lime, and some green onions, scallions. And you then have something that's really, massively filling and good for you and good for the planet, in the sense that when you eat this way, you will have, it takes, 1/18 the amount of land and 1/13 the amount of water if you eat a plant-centric diet compared to more of a traditional meat-focused diet. So that's another way. The more plants we get on our plates, the healthier we'll be, as well as we're helping the environment as well. And then these, you can drizzle some sriracha sauce or something like that on your dish as well. All right. We are going to go to version 2. Bear with me as I transition. We are going to be working with now a cooling kind of salad. And we're going to make an Asian style slaw. And it's going to use some of the similar ingredients in the sauce we made so that you don't have to, you can see how we can vary some of the items that was in the first sauce to make the second. So instead of, with an Asian style slaw, I think peanut butter would be a little bit too much. I don't want that nut kind of flavor so much coming through, but I want the richness and luxurious mouthfeel that you get from a nut butter or a seed butter. So I'm actually going to use a sunflower butter. And this is a 1/4 cup of sunflower butter. And then, like we had the tamari or the soy sauce before, we had, we're going to use, we have a 1/4 cup of sunflower butter in here. We're going to use a 1/4 cup of low sodium tamari or soy sauce in this dressing. So there's some similarities in measurement wise that you'll see that are similar. And we're also going to have rice vinegar. So these are ingredients you would have on hand. If you already are making the hot dish, you would also have the rice vinegar as well for this. And this is a 1/4 cup rice vinegar. Now where the difference comes in, because we're making a cooling salad, I am introducing an ingredient that I really love to use in salad dressing, and that is Dijon mustard for some zing. And we're going to be using 1.5 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. Now added to this, we are going to be adding, whoops, let me just wipe off my hands here. We're going to be adding, instead of lime juice, we're going to be adding lemon juice. And this is a tablespoon of lemon juice. Again, for brightness, that acidity. We're going to add some little bit of sweetness. Before, we didn't have added maple or added sweetener in the hot warm sauce, but in this, I'm adding a tablespoon of maple syrup. And I am going for some fresh ginger again, but if you didn't have fresh ginger, you could use ground ginger. So you could, this is 2 tablespoons again of fresh ginger, but you could use, like I said, about 1/4 teaspoon start with of brown ginger. I'm looking for my whisk. Well, I'm going to see if I can get it mixing with this good enough. I think so. All right. Now, you could also add in some chili flakes if you wanted, so I have that out as well, but I'm going to leave that out. I'm going to pretend that someone does not like something spicy, so I'm just going to leave it out. You could also add some water to this. And you could actually serve it for a regular salad, like just a typical salad dressing. I'm going to leave the water out though in this because I'm going to be using cabbage and some of these other ingredients that naturally release their water. And I don't like runny slaw, so I'm going to leave the extra water out. So what I have here is some Napa cabbage. It's 4 cups of Napa cabbage. And I have 2 cups of red cabbage. And I'm just going to dump all these in together. This is a red bell pepper. And we have in here some bitterness going on, correct? We have the cabbage, the cruciferous family. And so I want to also add a little bit of sweetness from some of the items I am going to be having as the base of the salad. So red pepper works wonderfully for that. And I am just adding in, it's about 1/2 cup of red bell pepper. And then some natural sweetness, 1 cup of carrots that were shredded. This is about, it's 4 small scallions. If you don't like a lot of onion, you could always cut back and just use a couple or leave it out entirely. But in this type of slaw, I really like scallions. So I am going to add in a good amount. Then also for some natural sweetness and also chew. I like salads that have different things going on. There's some crunch in here, but I also like some chew that comes from golden raisins. So this is a 1/2 cup of golden raisins. Now at this point, I am going to add in my salad dressing. And you'll notice here I have some extra, I had chopped up some kale because my Napa cabbage wasn't quite 4 cups. So I'm going to see if I might need to add some cabbage in here as well. But we'll see. But look at the wonderful colors going on here. And this is a salad I would recommend making a little bit in advance so that the flavors can really meld. And the cabbage has a chance to kind of absorb some of the sauce. And then finally, I'm going to add in a 1/2 cup of cilantro. Now, some people don't like cilantro. You could leave it out, or you could use some Thai basil or fresh basil instead. And then you could sprinkle in some of your black sesame seeds. And now you have this wonderful, cool salad that you can serve in numerous ways. You could eat it as a side dish with your hot dish that we just prepared, or you could make it and serve it with any sort of, a bean burger, or you could have it in a wrap for future lunches. There's a lot you can do with the slaw. You can top it on top of a tofurkey hot dog. Lots of things that you can do with this salad. So let me switch back over to me so I can pretend I am looking at you and you are looking at me. And do we have any questions at this point in regards to the two recipes, or how you would use it, or substitution type questions if you don't have something on hand? I am not seeing all my other classes. I had like tons of questions. No questions from anyone. Anyone have any ideas how you would use some of these sauces in your home? Any comments? Oh, Richard raised his hand. Go ahead. Richard, do you want to go ahead and just ask your question in the Q&A box, or do you want me to unmute you? Okay. Let me see here. Yeah, I can't, let's see here. Let me find Richard. Richard, I don't see your hand still raised. Because I don't know which Richard I should call on.
Mom, I'm gonna pipe in here.
Yeah.
Richard has asked his question in the question and answer section.
Oh, we did. Oh, okay. Oh, it was below. I didn't see it. Okay, very good. Thank you, Megan. Were the veggies cooked in the first dish? Yes. So I prepared them. It was kind of like I had limited time. I prepared them. I just quickly sauteed them in water, and it only took maybe 10 minutes or so. I like to keep them relatively crunchy, firm, vibrant looking, so it didn't take very long at all. And then I would warm it up. What I would be doing is I'd warm up the sauce. At the same time, I'd be preparing the sauce, and then I would add it into the veggies and then serve it on top of rice or mix in noodles and that kind of thing. So Roxanne asked, let's see, I like the slaw as a wrap. How about adding some tofu to the wrap? Yes, you could add tofu definitely to the stir fry veggies. You could add it inside a wrap. Very good idea. Very good idea. Judith says, can you use lemon instead of lime juice? Yes, you could. And I did in the second recipe for sure, but if you didn't have it, it would give it just a little bit different taste, but you could definitely use it in the warm. Just make sure you kind of do it at the end is what I'd recommend. Elizabeth, what is the name of the grain used in the first dish? It's farro, F-A-R-R-O is the name. And what's interesting is we are dealing with shortages in some of the grocery stores. And I noticed it was kind of down on a shelf in one of the stores, and it was like the last like whole grain I could find. And I love farro, and I hadn't used it in a while. And so that's what I wound up using instead of like a traditional brown rice. And I like it. I like it a lot, both for breakfast instead of oatmeal, as well as at lunch or dinner times. Let's see here. And I'll get to the ones in the chat box too, folks. I'm going to go through the Q&A first. Okay, Elizabeth, can't wait to try these dishes. Good, they're simple and yummy. Lena, this salad would be really good with roasted vegetables or roasted baked tofu or mixed in baked tempeh. Absolutely. I've done all of those, so I agree with you. Could you use the peanut sauce as a dip for salad rolls? You betcha, Bev. You could definitely do that, and I'd highly, highly recommend it. Sandy asked, how many cups of stir-fried veggies did you use? I can't say cup-wise. What I'll tell you I did though, because I knew I'd probably get this question, Sandy, is I used 1 zucchini, I used 1 red bell pepper, I used a jalapeno, I used a carrot, I used 8 ounces of mushrooms, I did use 2 cups of broccoli, and I used some of those sad like ends of greens I was talking about, and I'd say it was about 2 cups of that, as well as a little bit of onion was in there as well. And so that's the nice thing about this kind of dish. It's like a chili or a soup. You just use whatever vegetables you have on hand and it turns out great. So play with it, you know, and how many veggies you want to put in there, but it works really well with all sorts. Let's see, I'm going to go over the chat box. I answered that. Anne, hi Anne. Is Napa cabbage easier on the digestion than regular cabbage? I would say, I don't know officially off the top of my head, don't know if Corinne, my future dietitian, knows, but I would say yes, I believe it is. And this is why. It's not as fibrous as Napa cabbage or as red cabbage. And for me personally, I don't tend to have as much digestive issues because I always traditionally had with cruciferous vegetables, I had issues till I started eating more this way, and then they've dissipated quite a bit. But I would say I go for Napa cabbage, green onions, some of those milder type of veggies versus the full powerful, let's say a red onion or a red cabbage. So, but I really enjoy the beautiful colors that they provide. Let's see, Deb says, I like the slaw. Seems like it may have lots of uses. Yes, it definitely has lots of uses. And you can change it up too with whatever, you can change it with using a different vinegar, using a hot spicy mustard or a stone ground mustard. You can change it up with whatever ingredients you have on hand. Thank you, Jody. Yes, I would say the recipes are delicious. I hope you all try them. Let's see here. Tiffany, I'm going back to the Q&A box now. Can you share with everyone the difference between beans, legumes, for those who may not know, and provide examples? So yes, I mean, if in regards to legumes, it's this giant family within which beans fall underneath them. But also there's the category of peas like chickpeas and black-eyed peas, as well as lentils, all colors of lentils. So there's a huge difference between, or a huge variety within the legume family. And I just say go out and have fun and try all those different kinds of beans, lentils, and peas that are out there. They give you lots of fiber and lots of protein, so very good. I've never used radish greens in cooking. What is their flavor? So I will have to tell you, they were just something that we will try out. My husband and I will try out tonight at dinner time. I used, and I didn't have very much, and I didn't think I'd want to use a ton in there, but I didn't want to throw any in my compost bin either. So I'm trying it out, and I think just using a little bit will be fine. But that's how you explore and learn. So try using them, try using them. Can tahini be substituted for the peanut butter? In regards to, I would definitely say in regards to the second recipe, I've never tried it with the first. I've tried almond butter, I've tried peanut butter, tahini. It might be maybe a little bit too intense, but maybe not. You could try it. But I have used the tahini in the Asian slaw recipe before, and that is a perfect substitute. But again, it's your kitchen, what you have on hand, and try it out and see what works for you. Let's see, let me go back to the chat box. Let's see here. Connie says, these recipes look okay. Okay, so good, can't wait to try them. Love slaws and all the colors. Yes, And the one thing with colors when you're working in the plant-based world is trying to get a variety of, like the nutrition rainbow that's behind me, and I've talked about it at every class. That's a way that you know you're getting a variety of nutrients as well. So go for the rainbow, and your food speaks to you. It will tell you to eat it by how visually appealing it is. So these dishes are super visually appealing by all the variety of colors. Do I use unsalted natural peanut butter or salted? I personally use unsalted, and this is why. And I'd recommend it for anyone who has like heart conditions, you know, high blood pressure, hypertension, any of those kind of things. Is we all tend to get a lot of salt in our diet without realizing it. And it's one way I can control the taste of something. If something already has salt added to it, then I don't have as much wiggle room to make it the way I want it to taste. So I always recommend getting, if you're going to purchase, you know, any sort of nut butter or seed butter, is get it so that there's no salt, no sugar, so that you can add that flavor to it and control it. And it really tends to only take a little bit of salt, especially if you're putting it on a salad or a baked potato or whatever, just a little bit of sprinkling to something like that, or in a sauce at the very end, will satisfy your salt, I would say, craving and work well. What people find is as they start reducing salt, they don't need to eat as much. They get super sensitive to it. So I'm actually very sensitive to salt. I don't need to use a whole lot of salt in my food preparation because I've really weaned myself off of it, I guess you'd say. So to answer that question, let's see. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, yes. No, I know what you said, Connie, that it was meant to say they all look so good. I get it. I get it. Let me go back. Let me see. It looks like there might be a couple more questions. I've used tahini even in a stew, just a tablespoon. Great in salads too. Tahini from Middle Eastern store, not bitter like the one in Whole Foods. Okay, good to know. You know, yeah, and some of these stores, Middle Eastern stores, they tend to have some maybe different quality type stuff than we get in a typical grocery store. So I agree with you there. What's your favorite peanut butter brand? Well, I'd have to, did I bring it out? Let me grab it. Whoops, forget, I'm right here. I tend to use Santa Cruz if I'm going to buy it. And so this is a brand I really, really like the taste of. So there you go. One thing I'm going to try here, before I lose anyone, I have a couple things I want to say in regards to wrapping up, but then I'm going to stick around for more questions and answers if there's any more as you're thinking as I'm talking. So let me just get back to a couple more slides and then we're done. So there it is, the Asian style slaw. Now, a couple things I always like to wrap up my classes with the fact that, again, this is Earth Month. If you want to show your support of like eating more plants just for the rest of this month, which is Earth Month, and really take the next couple of weeks to, you know, try to get your plate more plant centered for the health of our planet as well as your own personal health, you can actually take this pledge. It's kind of fun. There's a calculator that shows you how much you help with preventing and maybe reversing global warming. Is go to this pledge for the planet, and it's at healthyworldsedona.com. And I'll have this in a link in the email that's going to go out tomorrow. And you can take this little pledge, and there's some information there about how we can help our planet by eating more plants, as well as by composting, the benefits of composting, which I love to talk about. That's one way, is to, instead of putting your scraps into the landfill, put it into a compost container, give it to a gardener or a farmer, or if there's a service in your town, like we have a service here, Compost Crowd, that's here in Sedona and up in Flagstaff, and you can have them take your compost or your food scraps away and turn it into healthier compost. You know, things to think about: farmers market, CSAs. I've been starting to do that. They even have them now where you can't maybe go physically to a farmer's market, but you can pick up a box of veggies. And so the more plants that are grown locally, that's better for our planet as well. These classes I've been giving free, and so I'm asking people to consider donating to places that are having problems getting foodstuffs on their shelves, or out to the populations that are at risk. So consider donating to Meals on Wheels or to a food bank. Do a random act of kindness if you can't donate anything monetarily. In the grocery store, I always tell people, hey, just let that next person go in front of you, or say thank you to that cashier that's ringing you up. And then just learn more. There's going to be ways that you can learn more on the follow-up email that I send you. And then I want to try to give a poll at this point. I don't know if it's going to work. It hasn't with Zoom, but I'm going to see if you would take this poll for me. I am considering doing some future what are called Food for Life classes. And before, we've never been able to give them online. This is something new with the coronavirus situation. So if I would like to just get a feel for what people might be interested in, because these are all new classes that I'm really excited to teach. So I'm going to have Megan or Corinne or John tell me if this poll is really launching or not. Give me just a second. Does anyone out there in Zoom land see this poll?
It's up.
It's up?
I see it, yes.
All right, well, I'm going to leave it up there for a moment, and I'll end it because it doesn't sell. It's kind of interesting. Oh, there's some stuff coming in. Yay! Zoom had a problem here in my first couple classes, and I was hesitant to use this, but this will help me know maybe what kind of interest level is out there. Because these are longer classes, more in depth, more personalized, customized. And so I'm just kind of curious where I should be teaching and what classes to teach. So this is really helpful for me. I'm gonna wait another minute or so. There's still people thinking. And then I'll share the poll with you, the results. All right, how about 10 more seconds? All right, I'm going to end the poll. And share the results. Do you see the results? If no, it looks like Power Foods for the Brain is really a high interest level with a healthy thyroid, and then Foods for Fitness. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Sharing that information. That's valuable for me to know. I have a few more questions that I'm happy to answer. Yeah, all the classes sound interesting. Hard choice, I know. And I may offer a couple or several. I haven't decided yet. This is all new. This is an all new experience for me. So I'm going to mull it over. You are welcome. Thanks for being at the classes. Christina, I appreciate you being here. And you've enjoyed them. I'm so glad you've come the last few weeks. Thank you, thank you. You've really made my day. Thank you very much for inviting us into your kitchen. Your recipes look fabulous. Thank you, Jitka. I appreciate that. I would also say Food for Fitness. Okay, all the topics look interesting. We could only pick one. I like several of the ideas. Thank you, thank you. A real quick thing, just to let you know as I'm wrapping up, and then I'll hop back on because I want to respect everyone's time because we're a little bit over. We talked about the poll. Let's see here. If you want to get a hold of me, especially those who have tuned in from like an education institution or Northern Arizona Healthcare, or you're coming from a company, you gave me a business address and you wanted to receive future information from me, please know those firewalls tend to keep me locked out. So if you want to get class information on future like Food for Life classes or Plant to Platter classes, just my monthly newsletter that comes out once a month. I don't deluge your email box because I don't like it done to me. Please consider emailing me at that address, chrisk@planttoplatter.com, and giving me more of a personal address, just so you know I'm not ignoring you in the future. You'll never hear from me again if you have some of those business addresses I might not be able to get through. And then you can always find me on my website, contact me through my website. Recipes are newly put on my website. My newsletter that comes out once a month, and then I am on Facebook and Instagram. I don't live there, don't want to live there. I'm more of an in-person kind of person. So, but I am there, and you can find me and speak with me in those forums as well. Let me just look and see if, let me go through the rest of the questions and answers. And those of you, if you have to pop off, let me. You have really made my day, so I appreciate all of you being here. Let me see. Thank you for sharing wonderful ideas. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm trying to introduce more variety of food with colors to my kids. I have an 11-year-old and an 18-month. So yeah, if you were at the kids in the kitchen class last week, hopefully you've tried some of those recipes. If not, those classes are up on the front page of my website. So anyone can go back and review these last 3 classes. Just go on my front page of my website and click on the appropriate link. But I'm here to help you too, Elizabeth. If you have questions, just email me, contact me, and I'm happy to share ideas for how to get your kids to eat healthier so that we improve our personal health and the health of our planet. Lucy, is this weekly? Well, not currently, no. This is something I tried out because I'm usually out in the community teaching classes or doing customized classes in the Plant to Platter kitchen, but because of the shelter in place kind of stuff going on, I'm just trying out via Zoom this format. But I am looking at doing more intimate, smaller classes with the Food for Life program or Plant to Platter classes. So stay tuned and email me if you're interested in something like that. And Sandy, you are welcome. Thank you. I appreciate all the great responses. And I'm going to go over the chat. Thank you, Judith, for being here. Say hello to Charlie for me. It was nice. Thank you. I'm glad to see. I wish I could see all of your beautiful faces. That's the one drawback. But in a meeting style format class, I could do that. And then so glad to be able to do this with you all from Donna. I think even after COVID-19, online classes will allow more participation. We can pay a subscription fee. Yes, that's like, I think what people are kind of going towards. And I think it's a great forum. I do like more personal interaction. So I think going to a Zoom meeting versus the webinar. I was just trying to throw it out there, but I'm looking at more doing a meeting style format. And so I think I've addressed everyone's questions and comments. Thank you for being with me in my kitchen. Again, think about every bite that you take, everything that you put on your plate. What is it better for you? Is it better for the planet? Start educating yourself and do what's good for you. Stay healthy, stay safe, and be joyful in the kitchen. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day.